A mysterious image, an outraged left, and a media cycle obsessed with symbolism while a monumental legal ruling gets buried underneath their own hypocrisy. Today we're going to dive into the viral storm that set the internet on fire, sparked by someone posting an image. Well, something and from someone you'll never guess, or you may. But while the mob clutches its pearls, Trump just scored a major court victory in the D.C. Circuit Court that no one's covering, of course not, because it could have a ripple effect across many cases that he is now fighting against. It could cripple the activist judicial resistance to his executive orders and set the tone for a total reshaping of the bureaucratic machine. So why is no one talking about it, huh? Buckle up. What's hiding behind the outrage is far more important than the image they can't stop screaming about. And that's the story I'll bring you here in 1 minute. Just like Trump, I love liberal tears, especially when it shows you their own hypocrisy, and that's where we're going to end this at. But we got a few major updates first. U.S.-Ukraine signs long-awaited mineral deal. Okay, we've all heard about that, right? But did you hear what's happening in the background of this attempt to move towards peace, to negotiate? And if you believe that, I got something else I want to say you. But I want you to listen to some of the messaging happening in the background and why more than likely it's happening. Well, actually, Zelensky just showed us why it's happening. Listen in here for a moment.
The Secretary has also made it very clear that while our style will change, the methodology of how we contribute to this will change in that we will not be the mediators. That is what I mentioned on Tuesday, and the nature of how this would change is we certainly were still committed to it and will help and do what we can, but we are not going to fly around the world at the drop of a hat to mediate meetings, that it is now between the two parties, and now is the time that they need to present and develop concrete ideas about.
We'll stop it there. We're no longer the mediators in the Russia-Ukraine peace settlement. Well, does that make a lot of sense? We're doing mineral deals. Why are we getting involved? J.D. Vance gives you a little bit more color in this clip coming off of Fox News.
To come to an agreement and stop this brutal conflict. It's not going anywhere, Brett. It's not going to end anytime soon. And I think for the Ukrainians, yes, of course, they're angry that they were invaded, but are we going to continue to lose thousands and thousands of soldiers over a few miles of territory this or that way? I hope. Look, I am optimistic, but it is ultimately, it's hard to say confident because the Russians and the Ukrainians, they're the ones who have to take the final step.
A little bit of conflicting statements there. We're out. Now the Russians and Ukrainians need to figure it out, but it's not going to end anytime soon. So is the administration losing faith that Zelensky will ever move towards peace? Well, they were just given the answer by Zelensky. We are choosing exactly those painful points of Russia that will most of all push Moscow towards diplomacy. They must take clear steps to end the war. And we insist that the first step should be an unconditional and complete ceasefire. Russia should do it. Now they are worried that they have a major parade right around the corner, just a few days away. And that's the question. And they are rightly worried. But they should be concerned that this war is still going on. They must end the war. So you're going to threaten Russia, and you didn't expect a response? Leaders, as I mentioned yesterday, Xi Jinping, leader of India, Vladimir Putin will be there, and you're going to threaten that parade in the middle of peace negotiations. But that wasn't enough for Zelensky. Oh no, he went a step further, and he rejects Putin's 3-day ceasefire. Medvedev came out immediately. In the event of a real provocation on Victory Day, the celebration we're discussing, no one guarantees that May 10th will come in Kyiv. Now we have a problem. The green, unshaven a-hole said that he rejects Putin's proposal for a 3-day truce on May 9th and cannot assure the safety of world leaders in Moscow. He also called Zelensky's words about the possibility of an attack on the victory parade a verbal provocation, seconded by the spokesperson for Moscow. Says Zelensky's truce refusal poses direct threat to visiting leaders. Goes a step further. She emphasized that Zelensky's unambiguously threatened world leaders. After every terrorist attack on Russian territory, the Kyiv regime, its security services, and Zelensky personally boast that this is their doing, that this will continue. Therefore, the phrase that he does not guarantee security on May 9th in Russia, as it is not his area of responsibility, is, of course, a direct threat. What will the response be now? Did Zelensky ever truly want peace? Be as angry as you want. Be careful the bear you poke. Right? Trump pokes bears every day, doesn't he? China, cartels. But CNN, who tries to dig Trump again a little bit, has an interview after Trump designated cartels foreign terrorist organizations. So what do? They find someone from the Sinaloa cartel in Mexico and they ask him a question. What is your message to Donald Trump if he's watching this? And they get a response they never expected. My respect. According to him, he's looking out for his people. So it appears world leaders know what Trump is doing. And the Mexican drug cartels know what Trump is doing. But many in America have trouble understanding that you lead through the show of force. Even the Sinaloa cartel respects what he's doing, protecting the American people. But it appears our court system can't get that through their thick skulls now, can they? Despite their denials, China is losing the tariff war and is retreating fast. Wall Street Journal, China signals readiness to respond to U.S. trade overtures. And the New York Times, as China looks for ways out of U.S. trade deadlock, what did they offer Trump? Hey, maybe there's a way we could stop this fentanyl from coming into your country, so don't tell me that it's not working. But we're going to focus on a meme today. That's what they're going to focus on. Not something far more important coming off of this court case. Remembering a federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to restore Voice of America and several affiliated news services, finding the Trump administration's efforts to dismantle it likely violated the law. Well, this would apply to many court cases, very similar to this one. And guess what? The left didn't get the response they want coming out of the United States Courts of Appeals, a major ruling just filed on May 3rd. Yesterday, mainstream media not covering it because it is a monumental loss to the judicial activists attempting to stop the mandate for change we gave President Donald J. Trump. And those are the details I'm going to bring you here in just 1 minute. Before I do, I want to welcome all the new members that joined yesterday, all the new subscribers that joined. Welcome home. You found a real place for news, black and white, where you get the occasional rant, but I really try to keep it as moderate as I can. But it's not easy in today's news cycle. If you haven't subscribed yet, well, come on, come home. Hit the subscribe button. Make sure your bell is checked to all. Those of you who have joined as members is a way to make sure these lights and cameras stay on. Thank you so very much. Super thanks those that you provided. So many over the last few days. Again, to keep everything running here. Thank you. And as a form of a thank you from Lisa and I, guess what we did? We built an entire news platform for you. I hope you'll go over there and subscribe. It's called RestrictedRepublic.com. RestrictedRepublic.com. There's monthly, annual subscriptions. It's the news you can't find anywhere else because there's exclusive content put there almost daily now. On top of all our broadcasts, no matter where we broadcast them, there with no commercials and no interruptions. Because guess what? We're beholden to no one because we own the platform. We run the platform. And we are the ones, and you are the ones who decide what's on it. It is news like you've never heard it before. I want you there today, RestrictedRepublic.com. But now, let's get back to this broadcast, shall we? Margaret Cleveland, senior legal correspondent, 25 years, Second Circuit law clerk, knows a lot about legal cases, and she goes into this case versus Kari Lake. Breaking, huge win for the Trump administration in D.C. Circuit enters stay of lower court injunction. They stop it. Lower court barred Trump administration from managing Voice of America and Education Department and every other department, right? D.C. Circuit stayed decision allowing Trump to move forward with the firings. Oh, now this has bigger implications, doesn't it? On March 14, 2025, the president issued Executive Order 14238, which directed USAGM leadership to reduce the agency to the minimum levels of operation required by the statute. The court goes crazy. The lawsuits begin. We want our jobs back. How dare you put 1,000 employees on leave and terminate 600 contractors? You can't do that. You can't do what the American people asked for. Well, it got to the Court of Appeals, and they make a different decision all about jurisdiction. This conclusion should have widespread ramifications because many of the challenges to the Trump administration are about employment decisions, which Congress said are not for district courts to decide. Well, until this court decided, we haven't had any rulings, but now we do. The government is likely to succeed the court rules on the merits because the district court likely lacked subject matter jurisdiction to have anything to do with this case. Oh, you haven't heard that before, huh? And she gives plenty of case law to back her statement up. She goes further, though. She also points towards the SCOTUS in a minute. The Court of Appeals decision is also significant because it addresses the wholesale dismantling argument being presented in several cases, such as USAID cases. The Administrative Procedures Act is not for such claims either, and Congress did not waive such immunity. In other words, you don't have authority to do crap about it. The district court nonetheless justified the injunction on the grounds that this case is not simply a collection of employment disputes because the facts in the record and on the ground suggest USAGM is being dismantled. And in their stay briefing, plaintiffs expressly framed their claims as challenging the wholesale shuttering of Voice of America and seeking to undo broad government action to dismantle an entire federal agencies. Yet, plaintiffs can't even use the APA to mount wholesale challenges to an agency's entire program. What? You mean the court case is invalid and many of the court cases are invalid? Oh, but they're not done yet. Additionally, Court of Appeals held that the district court lacked jurisdiction to restore grants because Congress gave that authority to Court of Claims. They're not even in the right courtroom. But no, this doesn't hit mainstream media, doesn't it? And not only on the terminations, but also on the grants is added to the ruling. The district court also likely lacked jurisdiction to restore any of the grants in this case, which has widespread implications. So what do we have? A major victory for the Trump administration. But we're not done yet. Court of Appeals also notes how SCOTUS decision compels that result, which it does, and yet district courts just ignore the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court recently applied these principles to issue a stay pending appeal in a case substantially similar to this one, the Department of Education versus California. A district court entered an order enjoining the government from terminating various education-related grants. The Supreme Court stayed the order pending the disposition of an appeal to the First Circuit and assuring petition for certiorari. The court concluded that the district court likely lacked jurisdiction to bar termination of grants because the Tucker Act likely conferred jurisdiction over the dispute on the CFC. Oh, wait now, so all these cases, all this time, all this manipulation, and they didn't even have jurisdiction? Man, who's been saying that for a long time? I wonder. By the same token, however, the public has an interest in the judicial branch's respect for the jurisdictional boundaries laid down by Congress. But they're just, doesn't matter to us. The Supreme Court doesn't matter to us, these activist judges. The Congress doesn't matter to us, these activist judges. And all they're doing is slowing down the mandate for change. So in summation, the opinion is a huge win for Trump because it establishes three key principles that apply to many of the other cases being brought against the Trump administration. No jurisdiction over firing, no jurisdiction over grant terminations, and you can't get around Congress limiting district court jurisdiction by creative pleading of claims under other theories. with no bond harm to government will outweigh other harm. Public has interest in Article 3. Obey Article 1. But hey, why should the courts follow the law, huh? Final thought is next to impossible to reconcile opinion here with the same panel refusal to clarify stay in other cases involving USAID and grants from legal perspective. Practically, Judge Cottis in the other case figured decisions on merits would soon enough. So no harm. But there was harm. Carrie Lake came out. Thank you for putting this post together, laying out our victory today. We are very happy about the ruling, and you should be happy about the ruling, because it tells the courts that they have to follow the law. What a novel thought, huh? A big win, indeed, for President Trump and Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution. But then Trump gave him some cannon fodder, didn't he? A picture you were never meant to see. The left never wanted you to see this. Well, they wanted you to see it, but they didn't want you to see it because they didn't realize, by asking you to see it, that they had been trolled by the king of troll himself, President Donald J. Trump. The image that set the internet on fire. But there's a backstory to this, isn't there? Something that no one's discussing, not just this image we're going to focus on. Bill Kristol came out. Hey, J.D. Vance, you fine with this disrespect and mocking of the Holy Father? J.D. Vance burns him to the ground immediately. As a general rule, I'm fine with people telling jokes and not fine with people starting stupid wars that kill thousands of my countrymen. And Bill Kristol is dissolved immediately. But that's not the ultimate hypocrisy. Oh, no. Amy McGrath, to all my fellow Americans raising and practicing Catholics, are you cool with this? Is this just funny stuff that everyone's laughing at? No, it's called a troll. Because he knew he would get liberal tears flowing. He knew he would get the reaction. And ultimately, he knows people like me will catch the hypocrisy in this. I'm about to show you. The Trump as Pope image is offensive to Catholics. But more offensive to Catholics should be Trump's treatment of the poor, the marginalized, the migrants that Jesus loves so much, the Liberation Theology podcast, or Governor Kathy Hochul. This is deeply offensive to me and to my fellow Catholics around the world as we continue to mourn our beloved Pope Francis. Oh, Kathy, you want to act as such a Catholic? Really? Because abortion is healthcare and a human right, touting that it passes. Or, this is deeply offensive to me and my fellow Catholics. Well, it appears some of your fellow governors, oh gosh, the imagery you're using, were you raging about that too? No, of course you weren't. But the ultimate hypocrisy is that this image offended so many. Did this image? Or maybe this image? Because then, where were your liberal tears exactly? You see, the king of trolling has a gift. A gift to expose hypocrisy without stating a word. It's a very stealth maneuver, only appreciated by a select few, but never forgotten here. So I want you to sound off below. What is the bigger travesty that happened yesterday? The fact that one of the most monumental court rulings that have come out wasn't even covered? Or the fact that the left's hypocrisy continues to override them? You know what? You can vote both if you want. Just make sure you blow up the comment stream, because none of this is normal. And I love you all. Hope you enjoyed this. Can't wait to see your comments below. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justus Knight, signing out.